California is proposing a 5% wealth tax on billionaires with a B. But here's what nobody's talking about. This is not just about the ultra rich. It's already changing who's buying, who's leaving, and why inventory is not exactly rising, even though people are moving out. Billionaires are quietly relocating. Wealth behavior is shifting before the law even passes. And if you don't understand what's happening underneath that, you're going to completely misread this current housing market. Let's first get into what this tax actually is. And we're going to break it down simply. The proposal is a 5% tax on individuals worth over $1 billion. Now, this isn't about writing a check. It's about when and where you're considered a resident, because timing matters. If you're a billionaire and you think this is coming, you don't wait. You move early. You restructure early, you plan early. Because guys, this isn't just a tax policy, it's a behavior changing event. And by the way, guys, if you are actually trying to figure out how all of this is gonna impact you, whether you're a buyer or a seller, then reach out to me. You can hit us at Arjun Mortgage on Instagram, and it's me that answers the DMs directly. And I'll walk you through your numbers and what kind of a strategy makes sense in this environment. Our contact info is also in the description below. Please, guys, if you also get a chance here, just make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so that we can reach more people like you with useful content like this. Now let's get into the behavior shift that's already happening. And this is the mistake that most people make. They think that the markets will actually move or react after the law passes. But the reality is, guys, markets react before. They move on the news, not on the actual action. And wealthy individuals, they move earlier than anyone. Now, the best example I can give you of this where it kind of relates and it'll make more sense is with Apple. Whenever Tim Cook or Steve Jobs would do the announcement of the product, even though it's 6 to 8 months out from actually getting into people's hands or being available for sale in a retail location, the stock for Apple would move that day on the news. By the time you drove to work and saw a line all the way around the block, the Apple store, for people picking up their new phones or their new laptops or their new iPads, it's already too late. And this is the behavior that wealthy individuals understand. So what we're already seeing right now amongst this group is people changing their primary residence to Texas, Florida, Nevada, Tennessee. They're restructuring their assets and they're planning their exits quietly. There was roughly $2 trillion worth of taxable target out there, and that has since been reduced. Since this proposal was made and announced, it has come all the way down to 1.3 trillion. And that number is likely going to continue to fall because people are not waiting for this. They're taking action now. So this does not look like a dramatic exodus, and there are no headlines saying thousands of billionaires are leaving California overnight. It's much quieter than that, but it is happening. It's a slow leak of the highest income buyers in the state. And that matters more because these people, guys, are founders. They're investors, they're business owners, they're people that spend and invest a lot of capital right here in this state. And when they're gone and they take their money with them, so it's no longer being spent here, there's definitely a downside to that. So now let's connect all this to real estate so that we understand what actually happens to California housing. First is the luxury market shock. Now here's something that most people don't realize. The luxury market is actually very thin. It does not take many buyers or sellers to shift it. So if even a small number of ultra high net worth folks leave, you will start to see longer days on market, more negotiations, and more off-market deals. Then there is the ripple effect below the luxury market. And this is where it gets deeper because billionaires just don't buy houses, guys. They fund startups, they fund investments, they fund hiring, they create wealth ecosystems. Wherever they are, there's a ripple effect of wealth and economic activity that is created. So if they leave, you see less startup energy, less stock-based wealth creation, and fewer high-income earners entering the market. And where does this hit the hardest? San Francisco, San Jose, and West LA. But here's the twist. Some wealthy individuals won't just leave. They'll just reposition depending on how that tax is ultimately structured. So they might buy more real estate, hold more rental property, and park money into longer term assets. So you get this really weird and inexplainable tension where some people sell to leave and others buy more to protect their wealth. Then there's the hidden supply problem, and we've talked about this in previous videos. A huge portion of California housing never actually hits the market. Why? Because it's passed down through inheritance. Things like Prop 13 have made it so that a family that has a home in that actual estate or trust will actually just pass on that low property tax basis to their heirs. It will never actually hit the market, which means reduced inventory over time. Family keeps the low tax basis, there's no incentive to sell, and the market remains gridlocked. So quietly, supply continues to shrink in the background. Okay, so now let's address a very big misconception. People think that if folks are leaving the state, inventory should absolutely rise. And in a normal state or a normal market cycle, that's absolutely true. But here's what's actually happening here in California. People are leaving, but they're not actually selling. They're keeping homes as rentals, long-term holds, or even just simple second homes. Residency is changing, but not ownership. So someone might live in the state of Texas, for example, but still own something in the state of California. Luxury inventory also moves very quietly. Higher-end homes take a little bit longer to sell naturally. They have fewer buyers, and they often transact off-market, which means we don't know what happened until it's all said and done. And lastly, guys, the thing to consider is that supply is structurally constrained. You have zoning, permitting, construction costs, and the inheritance lockup all having a major impact on supply remaining super tight. And this is exactly why inventory isn't rising the way people think it should, even though it feels like people are really leaving. Okay, so let's be fair here, because there's another side or angle here to the story. Here's the argument for the tax. California needs revenue. It's an expensive state to run and operate, which is what most pro-tax, pro-revenue folks will say anytime somebody like me raises their hand and says, why do we need another tax? I say, well, you think these roads are gonna fix themselves? Do you think that sunshine is for free? It takes money to run the state. I totally get that. And the ultra wealthy should contribute more, which is why you'll hear arguments like pay their fair share. Now that can be debated on a separate video, but that's the reasoning and the argument for the tax. The pushback, especially now, that you're starting to hear is, where has all the other money gone? Why do people or citizens still see so much inefficiency? And why raise taxes if the outcomes have not actually improved over time? Now, these are all legitimate arguments on the other side, especially now when we are seeing states uncovering lots of fraud and wasteful spending going on, and taxpayers, rightfully so, are getting angry and starting to question things. Now, look, at the end of the day, proposing such taxes for purposes of making your state better, operating with more efficiency, raising the quality of life, of education, of services. These are all noble pursuits, but many people feel like the execution has not matched the promise. So at some point, the conversation needs to, and probably has already here in this state, shift from we need more money to what happened to the other money. So what does this actually mean for you as someone watching this video, as a prospective buyer or seller or investor here in California? Well, there's the short and long-term opportunities. So let's first start with the short. You may start to see more leverage at higher price points, price reductions, and seller concessions. And much, if not all three of these key areas, guys, have actually been taking hold in the marketplace already. Now, with the long-term risks of this wealth tax, there's two outcomes. First, the tax works out. We have more revenue, we get better infrastructure, stable housing impact, more of a balanced budget here in the state. And then there's pathway two, which has legitimate basis. And that is that the tax backfires. Wealth leaves, jobs leave, the budget gaps continue to grow, and more taxes eventually hit everyone because you're gonna have to offset that lack of revenue. So here's your strategy, both buyers and sellers. Let's start with buyers. Look for the micro opportunities, not market crashes, because they just aren't going to happen here. Focus on luxury softening plus tech-heavy areas. And be conservative. Buy well below your means. Don't max out just because you're qualified for X and go out and spend X. If you're qualified for X, spend W, so to speak. Now for sellers, your timing is going to matter more than ever. The reason is because you are competing with off-market inventory, quiet sellers, and far more selective and confident buyers. This isn't the market of a few years ago. The tables have turned in many respects. Now for investors, and let's include them because they make up a huge part of our market, especially here in California, rental demand remains strong. Consider out-of-state diversification. There are some amazing states where your money could get put to work and you'll get just as good, if not better, tax benefits and some other great upside. And then lastly, look at some longer-term hold strategies. Because at the end of the day, guys, this is not just a tax story. It's a shift in how wealth moves, how people will hold real estate going forward, and why this market stays super tight, even when the headlines are saying that people are leaving. Now, if you're thinking about buying, selling, or just trying to make sense of all this, even refinancing, please reach out to me. Let my team help you put together a strategy that makes sense of all of this, and we'll walk you through exactly what this means for your situation. And in this next video right here, I break down why lower mortgage rates are not exactly a good thing and how they can actually hurt you if you don't understand the bigger picture. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next topic.